Well, you read that right. It was quite a day yesterday. I'm going to do my best to talk about this without getting too emotional, although I'm sure it will happen. Also, I just took my prednisone, so sometimes it can make you jumpy and make your heart beat a little bit faster. So if I start rambling or talking fast, I think that's why. So yes, I went to the emergency room yesterday thinking I was having a heart attack. It started, it's probably been about 2 weeks since I was feeling some symptoms. I was feeling some tightness in my chest, a little bit of labored breathing. I had once or twice where I was like wheezing a little bit. And I just felt pressure right here on my chest. And I was trying to ignore it. I had a bunch of things on my mind, and that wasn't helping. So on 4th of July, I was feeling especially bad. Daniel hasn't been feeling great either. He actually had 2 tests for testing for COVID-19. Both came back negative. I actually took one as well, and that came back negative. So he's just been really lethargic and spending a lot of time just resting on the couch on his weekends. And so 4th of July, he wasn't feeling well and was on the couch most of the day. And I was trying to take care of the kids. We were debating on, what to do for the day. Usually in our neighborhood, we have a cul-de-sac, and so the families will gather together and do some fireworks. And we had bought some fireworks to, join in. And so Delta goes to sleep really early, and she wakes up pretty easily with loud noises. Like if a loud truck drives by, she will wake up sometimes. So I figured I would stay in the house and just, comfort her if she were to wake up. So the girls, I got them to sleep. I got Delta to sleep, and I was just continuing to feel bad. I was feeling nauseous. I had a headache, still labored breathing, and I was starting to have some tightness in my chest again. And I kept thinking, okay, just get Delta to bed. Dana's pretty good at occupying herself. So once I got Delta to bed, I went into our room and just, decided to change clothes and try and relax a little bit. And from there, it just kind of like the floodgates opened. And so I had a pulse oximeter that goes on your finger, and my oxygenation levels were at 94 and 95%. And then my heart rate was all over the place. So the highest I saw was 113, and then it would go back into the 90s. So I was trying to just relax, and Dan came in to check on me, and I told him what was happening. And essentially, he brought me some water with some electrolytes in it that had potassium in it as well. And I was crying and, breathing fast. I was trying to prevent hyperventilating. And then I was able to go to bed, and he took care of the kids for the night. Really, the Delta slept through the whole night, surprisingly. And then Dana went to bed a little bit later. She didn't really seem interested in the fireworks, so they didn't go down on the cul-de-sac. And so the next day, I ended up just chalking it up to a panic attack. It didn't feel like a full-blown panic attack like I've had in the past, but just I think it was a buildup of anxiety in my body. So then yesterday, which was Sunday, and kind of the couple days before, it was my birthday. I turned 40 on Friday, and so it was a combination of some fun times and then, some stressful times. And so I woke up at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, and I couldn't breathe. And to the point where I was like chin in the air, like trying to like take breaths, and it was really scary. And so I got my pulse ox on, and it was saying 90 at first. And so I switched fingers and tried to just relax a little bit, and got up to 94, and my heart rate was in the 80s, so that never increased. And it was just really uncomfortable. I was nauseous. Dan and I had went to dinner the night before, and he was not feeling well. He thought he might have food poisoning, and so he was kind of dry heaving and having a hard time functioning. So I tried to go back to sleep, but laying down was really uncomfortable. I took a couple of antacids because like I said, I was feeling nauseous and kind of weird. So the girls woke up like, between 5 and 5:30, and they kind of wake up around the same time. So I got them, diapers changed and all that, and just took it really easy, like really easy. Sat down as much as possible, and was trying to think of, what do I do? Because obviously there is a problem. So I have this terrible fear of having to call 911 and having to be taken down our stairs on a stretcher because, weighing 400 pounds, it just is the idea of going, people having to lift me and take me downstairs, like, is scary, but also like supremely embarrassing. And so, I think the only time 911 would be an option is if I was like passed out and someone was calling for me, because I would really try to do everything else possible, which is what I did. So being that Dan was not feeling well, I knew he was not capable of taking care of the kids. So I was calling around to see who would be able to help me with the kids. And thankfully I had some really special people that were able to help. And I got dressed and told Dan that I had to go in. I have to go in and get checked. And so I made it there about 10 o'clock, and they took me back right away and did an EKG right away, did labs, did the pulse ox, which again still was at about 94, and did a chest x-ray because last year I had pneumonia. On Thanksgiving Day was my diagnosis, but from July through January of this year I had chronic sinus infections and chest congestion, and I was on 7 different antibiotics during that time. So inhalers, it was just really, really bad. So I saw the ear, nose, and throat specialist. He did allergy testing. Those all came back fine. So, something was going on, is going on. So the doctor came in and said my EKG looked great. My chest x-ray didn't show pneumonia. So ultimately she's diagnosing me with bronchitis, although I don't have full-blown symptoms, in my opinion, of bronchitis. She said that with my history from last year and the way my lungs were looking, and my labored breathing, that's what it was. She did not feel like my symptoms seemed like COVID, as well as I had just had a test, I think 9 days before. So she prescribed an inhaler, prednisone, which is a steroid. It's an oral steroid, and then a round of antibiotics. So number one, this is where it gets emotional. I have always had a big fear of having heart problems. As a kid, I had a situation where my heart would start racing, And so we had several hospital trips from about age 7 to about age 13. And, you know, I don't really remember as an adult what that was diagnosed as. Or I don't believe I was ever given any medication, but it's just in the back of my mind. When I had the, I think it's called IVC filter, before my gastric bypass surgery, it goes through a major artery, and I think it was down below the heart was where it was placed. My heart started racing because they said it tickles the heart because it has to go past it. So I did have a racing heart during that time. That was back in 2012, and they had to give me an injection that essentially stops your heart for a very quick second and starts it back up again, and that resets the beat. So I've always had, you know, a fear of having heart disease or a heart attack. My dad had, I think, his first heart attack at 35. I think he had 3 total. He also had uncontrolled diabetes, lost a leg, and ultimately died at 62. So I don't want to go down that path. And being that I am so heavy and I'm not very active physically, is pretty scary. So I was very, very relieved that my heart looked good. She said there was absolutely no stress on my heart. So that is great. The breathing issue is an issue because that is also scary for me, and I'm out of breath still. You can probably hear it when I talk, and the inhaler is helping. I think the prednisone will help. When I had my issues last year, I was given prednisone a couple times. And I'm going to email my primary care doctor. We have really great insurance, so that is a huge blessing. I'm going to email my primary care doctor and see if I can get a referral to a pulmonologist or see what she suggests. The ER doctor yesterday said that your lungs are like a sponge, and if you don't use them, you lose them, essentially. And I do remember them saying that last year as well. And so she said what's happening is fluid is getting stuck at the base of the lungs. So I'm only using a small capacity of my lungs. So she wants me to start walking every day, you know, get out of breath so I can build up that lung function and, you know, lose weight, of course, and just really keep an eye on this because we don't want to go the same path that I did last year. And she said, you definitely don't want to get pneumonia again. So, I have a hard time being comfortable with being out of breath. I think it reminds me of when I was 500 pounds and I was out of breath all the time, and it was embarrassing and it was uncomfortable, and it always like triggers me to feel like I'm gonna die. And one of the panic attacks I've had, Dan and I, when we were early dating, he had taken me on this little hike, and we got out of the car, and it was literally, to me, like up. And I'm like, oh God, okay. And so I started just like walking really fast to get it done with because I was just not enjoying that. And I got really out of breath really fast, and he's like, slow down, you know, like you don't need to rush. But I was just trying to get it over with. And, you know, I started hyperventilating, and then it sent me into a panic attack where, like, you know, I couldn't breathe and I thought I was going to die. And like, you know, it was just like tunnel vision closing in. So, and that scared him. Talk about, you know, just starting to date someone. And so anyway, I guess my point is I am struggling with the idea of pushing myself to be out of breath in order to build up my lung function. And I need support on that. So that's why I'm going to reach out to my doctor and see what she suggests and, you know, go from there. When I had surgery back in 2012, they gave me this little machine thing. It was like hard plastic and it had a little ball in the center, and then I had a tube, and you like breathe in and you like are breathing so that the ball hits a certain point and then you let go. And that was supposed to build up your lungs for surgery. And I almost feel like maybe I need something like that. Dan thinks it might be a good idea to ask her about physical therapy too, because it's hard for me to move my body that much. You know, that's just the truth. I mean, it's the reality I need to face. I would love to say, okay, I'm going to go out and walk 3 miles and, you know, I'm just going to make myself do it. But the reality is, like, physically, I'm not in a place where I can right now. And, you know, I'm ashamed of where I'm at, and it's hard to ask for help because it's embarrassing and makes me feel just all around bad. But I've got to get over that, and I know I can't do it alone. You know, the second part of this is that I have to address my food addiction. And I'm just so scared of giving up the food, you know? It's been there for me, and it's always a sure thing. It's available 24/7. So that I know I can't do alone too. So I have good support around if I choose to use it. I have you guys to support me if I choose to use it. And so I've got to make a change. So I'm sharing this because I know I'm not the only one going through this stuff. You guys have sent me private messages saying that you're going through this stuff too. So I'm going to keep making videos. I've continued to make videos the last, month and a half. And in the past, I've always said, well, the past, you know, since kids, that I was going to make more videos, and then I would flake out because life is busy. But I've been consistent this time, and I want to continue to be consistent. And I want to document this because I don't think that this struggle is talked about enough. I just don't. I think that there are so many people out there that are feeling shame and guilt and all the feelings, and, you know, that are afraid to leave the house and need help too. So I'm going to keep making videos. I'm going to keep talking about this, and I'm going to get better. So thank you for watching.